All right. So I just had many sneezes in a row. And it's not like I'm going to blame the pollen or blame anything in the environment. I'm going to blame the instability of that we are in climate change, and there is a lot of instability. I mean, my little mark of the beast is sore. I was releasing a lot of demons this morning because yesterday it was really, really, really aggressive. I actually remember when I was typing in the morning and I heard this long, long, like tone in my ear. And it was long. I was like, when is it going to stop? And so then later on that day, around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, I just felt such surges of energy, like seriously, such surges of energy that I had to do those Facebook reels to release some demons and help my body just go through that process. And so then my husband called me and said, hey, I'm going to be in town. Do you want to go for some food? And before he called, I had maybe one bagel and I had my coffee and cream. And I'm like, hell yeah. And so I was thinking of Mexican, but he mentioned sushi. So when he came home and we went to get sushi, I will tell you, I ordered shrimp tempura plus the vegetable appetizers. I ordered tuna, like the tuna, like half raw, half not tuna with mangoes. I ordered about 20 pieces of sashimi. We also had soft-shelled crab, fried soft-shelled crab. He had like shrimp, I don't know, some kind of coconut walnut shrimp or something. It was really sweet, but I didn't eat it because I don't like that. And then we had also the new jasmine roll. Okay, and I couldn't even eat the new jasmine roll, but I ate all my sashimi. I ate most of the tempura. I ate all of the tuna, the raw tuna mango salad. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so I had to eat so much. And it was like I was just scarfing it down, like literally scarfing it down. And so it was just like, I felt energetic, like seriously energetic, sitting in that restaurant. And then of course, we go home and I eat like a little bit of ice cream. And then it was just the body going through the processes. And so, oh yeah, I feel like I'm big in this environment because yeah, it's going to be about 88 degrees and almost 90. And I was definitely releasing so much stuff this morning. And so all that stuff came out this morning and I'm just like, oh my God. It was like, but it was necessary because when the environment becomes really aggressive and you're going through major energy conversion, you have to feed it. You must feed it. Because if you don't, look at all those Hollywood stars. Kim Kardashian is 114 pounds, they say. Other stars in Hollywood are getting so skinny in this environment. And of course, their image, they can't afford to gain weight or bring up predisposed issues. But some of these stars are even going off the rocker as acting out just crazy type of behaviors that were, I don't know, instilled into them at some point. I couldn't tell you where the hell those behaviors came from. And so yesterday probably in the morning, like right after I did that Facebook Live, I was just writing a bunch of stuff. And so I was thinking about how the system changes. Every so often you'll have a belief system in the holistic, allopathic, politics, religion, and science. And one side, okay, relative to where you stand in whatever, in politics, religion, and science, health and wellness, there'll be winners, the people who will adopt the party line. They are supported in the media. Their friends and family are like, yeah, you should do this, 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 and this. There are directives and policies and procedures that say when this happens, this should happen, so this could happen. And there, of course, you have to test for certain things to see if that is something appropriate. And of course, everything's case by case. And what I mean, like in the medical world or holistic world. Okay, so the system will adopt a certain belief system a certain way, and it will be like the main platform that most society, if not all society, should be going by. And of course, all the licensed professionals are backing it up, and there's directives behind it, and there's also legislation and money backing it up. And so people who are told to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and they do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, okay, so they're winners. Everything's great. The system has a very specific outcome with a very specific programming that is aligned with the environment and the economy and the intentions of the day. But here's the thing. Like Bob Dylan said, the winners will be losers at some point. So you saw how we had the transition from the allopathic at some point. I don't even know where that, I think that transition probably came around the 1960s. And then everyone going into the holistic. And then that became something in addendum to the allopathic, and then became the preferred thing, the holistic world. Now, there is that on top of the belief system that everyone should die someday. You're going to deteriorate from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or autoimmune disorders, or age out, lose hair, lose collagen, get skinnier, get really obese. That's expected. Everyone is expecting that on some level. They'll look in their genetic line and see what their parents were suffering from, and then they will then assume that will happen to them, and they would be correct because the sins of the father get passed down to the sons and the daughters and the offspring. And so then, okay, so then there's that. Oh Lord, I'm really energetic. And so then you have that storyline, but then when that storyline gets exhausted, when there's an intention that you switch from the allopathic, which has its own issues with the end result as the morgue, then you have the holistic, who actually still believes that they're going to die someday and end up in the morgue. Okay, but they think, oh, okay, so if you're supposed to die someday, and it's not going to really, they're not worried about that. They just want to think that they're going to buy time with all these different remedies and surgeries and diets and whatever. But what happens is that then as the system accelerates the environment, because that is the predominant thing that causes outcomes to happen sooner or later in people. When the environment changes and then people still do their holistic stuff, they will allow a certain amount of attrition, but I don't say attrition because that's in the context of college where people pass through the system. There'll be a certain amount of death, and I don't know when that specific amount of death will then be questioned to then where they will question people's holistic practices, question all the deregulation of the herbs and the extracts, and the proliferation of all these MLMs and people making claims and or selling people concoctions that claim to detox or do other things. And so at some point that the holistic system will be turned on its ass. I don't know when. Because when a society in an accelerated environment, and that antibiotics and herbs and extracts cause people to not only become cured for a minute, but then have the antibiotic resistance and then turn to something stronger and stronger. And it's already proven out there in physics. That's why the World Health Organization has told people stop taking antibiotics, natural or otherwise, unless it's directed by a doctor. And even then, the doctor has to moderate how much antibiotics and painkillers and herbs and extracts you're taking. Because, eventually you'll destroy yourself. And so in this highly accelerated environment, there is intention on one end to help the baby boomers out the door because they are the most of the population. They are the largest part of the population. And so let them take all the herbs and extracts and oncology and all of that for a certain amount of time. But at some point, when a certain amount of death has been reached, a certain amount of that acceleration has been reached, because most people, if not all people, listen to the mainstream media. Then they'll say, okay, we can't do this anymore. We have just discovered through whatever, how it is. shit's going to turn just like that. And then all of a sudden, anyone selling anyone an herb, an extract, a detox, they might even go after the cannabis world at some point when they have discoveries of new science findings that, yes, cannabis is antibiotic and it will cause major death reduction and aging really excessively. And oh gosh, if you're taking this herb, and all of a sudden the herbs market and the holistic market will be under fire because it can't help but be under fire. That's the whole situation about science. When you accelerate from one end to another, you go from one extreme to another. You have to find that market correction, that balance, like bull market and bear market. And there's the definitions of that. Okay? And so that's the thing about our society is anything can happen and change can happen in an instant. Because if someone is pulling the strings on this end and maybe increasing the weather modification for science reasons, and you could say that that's all speculation. Can you prove it? No, but whatever. If someone is making the weather a little bit more extreme and it's highly, highly ionic and it's causing the aggressiveness, causing then things to come up, or any cures are not going to be effective, and also people will destroy themselves with that. And then you have the mainstream media who is telling people, oh yeah, you should take this, and this, and it's okay, and they're just letting people do what they do, just like they let Trump do what he does. That's why they let the guy in the 70s show do what he did for a long ass time, and then one day they're going to switch it on people. They're going to say, now we have new findings, now we have new, a new awareness. Now we don't want people using the herbs and extracts. Now we don't want people to be taking advantage of their position as an actor, as an influencer. And so that's why you're seeing now these Hollywood stars either falling on stage or falling from grace in the court system because of the accusations that were proven to be correct. Why you saw Epstein and Maxwell finally get their day in the sun. That's what I'm saying. The winners will be losers and the losers be winners. So don't think that because the system and all your little friends are saying, yeah, the holistic world is so great, think that that really is the holy grail. That is the end all be all. They have the answer that is going to be in conflict and supersede the holistic or the allopathic. Honey. That you're being manipulated like all to hell because how the system figures out how to jockey back and forth between belief systems, and they can change the environment. They can change even how mainstream media, how the journalists take people down or lift them up. That's the thing about the Constitution. Well, not the Constitution. The amendments, the First and Second Amendment have been weaponized against the people. How do you mean by that? Because you saw how they used the First and Second Amendment in the 1960s. Power to the people, everybody has a voice, go out there and march and all that. Then you see that whole thing. Well, there's violence even back then, but you're seeing now the manipulation behind it, because then when you go out there and peacefully march, some infiltrator is going to go and be a rabble rouser and make that peaceful march look really aggressive, and you won't know. That's all speculation. Oh yeah, they're blaming it on this, blaming it on that, like Antifa or BLM or all that stuff. Okay, and then the right wingers. That was all just purposely contrived to let you know that, yeah, that's not going to work anymore. That was weaponized against you because as soon as now you go out there and peacefully march, it's not going to be peaceful. Or it might be for a second, but then you know how people are. People go out, people get radicalized. And so then you have the media, the corporate media, that also takes people down. That also will find a way to shame and weaponize what people have been told. I mean, you look at all the gluten-free people. They're withholding milk from their kids. Oh, but they have a milk allergy. Do they really? But now they're showing the Cleveland Clinic overcoming peanut allergies in a child. Because they were slowly introducing peanut proteins to their kids' intake every single day, and they overcome the peanut allergy. And so then the system is going to go at some point. You're already seeing just the groundwork being laid, just little by brick, But now the mothers out there who are withholding meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits, vegetables, or whatever, their kids are on gluten-free diets. At some point, I'm not sure when that's going to happen, where they're going to actually weaponize their belief systems against them, and the mainstream media and the journalists are going to pick up on that and use someone as a tool at some point. But there must be, I guess, a certain amount of DEATH before they justify switching it on people. And that's what I'm saying about the mainstream media. You better watch out for them. And so just because you're winning today, when you think because you have so many people behind you supporting your gluten-free diets, all your organic starvation shit, just because you have 2,000 friends are all, yeah, the FDA is stupid and this and that is stupid and all that stuff. Don't believe that that's going to be forever. You being a winner with all your friends and family supporting you and starving your kid and your kids breaking bones and all that. Because that will fucking switch on you at some point. Because then that will lay the groundwork for the evidence to show that starvation leads to broken bones, malnutrition, and that they've shown that they can overcome allergies by slowly introducing things as long as it's monitored by a doctor, which I totally fucking agree with. The symptoms are not the issue. It's people, how they react to them. And then, of course, the system, the government has to be the one to say it's okay to have symptoms. So as long as a doctor monitors to the degree of symptoms and watch over, which, fuck yeah. Okay, so then you will realize that people are dependent on government validation. And so no, they're not anti-government. They're not anarchists. That's so far from the truth. Anarchists were given the allowance to be fucking anarchists when they're not really anarchists. That's the whole, that's the irony of it all, is that you're allowed to have your anarchist beliefs until they find a way to make fun of you down the road when you are, being, yeah, we were right about this. Yeah. Well, you were always right according to your belief system, but just because you got validation from NBC and ABC and CBS, now you're even more right because the government corporate media validated you. Right there just shows how much even the anarchists need the fucking government. Even the anarchists need the government. And so it makes you just laugh when you look at the bigger picture, and it makes you laugh to remember what Bob Dylan and those in the 1960s that were privy to this. Times are changing, and the losers will be winners and the winners will be losers. It's all relative to perspective, which side you stand on, because as soon as you stand on one side, it's going to fucking switch and change. And if you can't roll with the punches, if you can't change with the way the system is going, you will be made a fool of. Because there will be not only digital proof, but physical and biological proof that your belief system is fucking up your kids. Your belief system is fucking up your body. Your belief system is fucking up your whole community. But they will allow you, they give you enough ROPE to HANG yourself. I mean, that's kind of a bad analogy, but not really. I remember Jack Nicholson saying that about women. He says they're going to give them enough ROPE to HANG. And that's what's going on right now. So the system's allowing these parents to withhold food from their kids. And so when they turn the heat up at some point, and these kids don't fucking survive, and there'll be a lot of them, and they'll be examining even their beliefs in the J world, which I've gone back and said, you don't need to be on J juice anymore. They'll be examining their beliefs in the J world. They'll be examining their beliefs in the holistic world, in the diet gluten-free world. They'll be examining the beliefs in all the supplements and herbs and extracts world. They'll be examining every single fucking thing. And then they will have statistics and they will show people. They will use those parents as an example of what not to fucking do. Because all you're doing is giving the system evidence that your kid is deteriorating. You're deteriorating, mom and dad. But they want to have a certain amount of deterioration because remember, we're in a market correction. The projected of the Georgia guidestones is 500 million, and we're at 8 billion, projected to be 12.9 billion because of Africa. But at some point, they're going to use examples in the population of these radicalized moms that have seriously compromised their kids' future. by allowing the kid to not eat, by giving only certain things to eat because they're afraid of this and that. And then also the thing with the V's aren't poison. Remember, everything is FDA approved. Food Drug Administration is the end-all be-all in America, and then I'm sure over there in other places have their own regulation as far as food and drugs. And so you have to know how to release. That's the other side of it. No one has told you that anything after this FDA approved, which is the barometer that Americans go by, because if you don't believe in the FDA, then you will go down the street and buy something from some stranger who absolutely has no idea what goes on in your world. They'll be mixing elements and chemicals together that will work against you and destroy you. And then this is where then the feds come in and be like, you can't do that to the population. And then you are then corralled back to the allopathic Rockefeller medicine, that if you don't understand how to deal with symptoms and know how to take care of yourself and release demons and eat food, then you will have mommy and fucking daddy watch what you fucking do. That's why we have a surveillance system, so they're watching for that shit in the population. They know every behavior, they know every belief system, and they're watching people hurt themselves in the foot. SHOOT, themselves in the foot. And will they ever force VACCINE people? I don't know. It'll still probably be a choice. Because when you think about it, I don't need it. I have boobs to me, as you can see. I have fat to me. I have substance to me. I can blow my nose. I know how to get the demons out on the other end. I know how to rest. I know how to say, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't need to do drugs. I don't need alcohol. I don't even need lots of sex either. Okay? So I can regulate myself. I don't need the therapies. But when you have a kid that is 80 pounds and he's tall, and he doesn't have a lot of fat to him, he's skinny, he has predisposed issues, this isn't like you can't not give him some kind of extra help to jumpstart his immune system and give him some antibodies. But then again, on the other side of it, then you have to feed that energy. If you're going to give anyone a therapy, they still have to feed the energy. They still have to release demons. And so there's that side of it that we see people are not aware of, because they're so afraid of all the meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits, vegetables are all into non-GMO and organic and withholding food and gluten-free. And then the kid also has allergies. Nut allergies, milk allergies, fish allergies, tomato allergies. You fucking name it, they have it. And so the sister's like, well, if your kid has allergies and we just discovered a way to overcome that allergy without using antibiotics or other types of other therapies to compound the issue by slowly introducing, then you'll be forced back into the system so you can save your fucking kid from all the allergies, because you know they can't survive out there, when you think about it, with that many food allergies. Because you can't trust anyone, really, to make sure that your kid's protected from the proteins that they're allergic to. A society can't function if they're always going into anaphylaxis and taking adrenaline all the time. You can't, that can't be sustainable. That isn't sustainable. That's not even fucking realistic to be allergic to food. But then you realize that the holistic world developed that, as well as the allopathic, by using food as medicine, developing the allergies in people. And so we're going to see a major market correction with not only massive amounts of death and destruction and deterioration in children and adults and middle-aged people, but the system will eventually correct itself, and you'll have the feds come down on anyone that is advocating herbal remedies, advocating pills, powder supplements, and detoxes and cures to other people. And they're not licensed, not even licensed. They're not even a fucking doctor. They're not even, they shouldn't be recommending anything. And even the holistic professionals will be under fire for developing those allergies in the population. Because they're selling all the different tinctures that have food proteins that are in the food supply that you need as far as nutrition. And when you're giving people walnut oil, giving people lemon oil, giving people all these different concoctions that will cause allergies, then that could be, a federal offense. That's harming people. That's causing then destruction in the community. That's eventually going to happen. Remember, times are changing. There's a reason why the pendulum swings extremely in different ways. And just like with religion, after I did that Facebook Live, and I'm like, maybe your religion, maybe your politics, maybe your science dogmas caused all of your cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Maybe question every single fucking belief system you ever held. I mean, but then that would also require those that are in places like the Middle East, in Israel, in, you know, all the cradles of civilization to even question their own religion, and they're indigenous to that population. But remember, evolution. I don't know when they started evolving people, and they're not turning to caveman mentality. I don't know when that happened, where it's flipped to them, instead of a hand-to-hand combat war, it turned into an intellectual war, which is right now we're dealing with on the internet. We're not going to blows with each other. We're doing intellectual, psychological war right now, or what Alex Jones would call info wars. But it goes even deeper than information. It goes into psychology. It goes into just intellect. How well can you speak your position and factor in and take into account everyone else's position, and know when to put boundaries, and know how to analyze your own behavior so you recognize that in other people's behaviors, and you can figure out how to give yourself some peace so you're not always reacting to what somebody's saying. And so when you can say that you are, like, when you say something, like I say stuff, and I have no problem challenging industries, people's position, family, their politics, their religion, their science, I have no problem challenging it. And I know I get backlash, people react to me, and I've taught people, you don't confront someone, you react on your own page, like I do. I'll talk to people about talking to them and react on my own page, and they'll read it and they'll know I'm talking about them, and they react on their page, and it becomes that subconscious war. And so even when I don't know if this person is talking about me, but it's talking to me, like their post on their page is talking to me as if they were confronting me, then even if they're not literally reacting to me specifically, they're reacting to someone else who is like me, who's challenged their belief systems, I'll still react to it as if they were talking to me. Yes, so when you can face that the shoe does fit you, and you are going to articulate and respond to it, even though they weren't meaning anything towards you, they're talking to people that are just like you, and you're like one of the clones in their world that is challenging their beliefs, their lifestyle, and their whole way of life. And we should be able to do that without confronting people face to face, because there's no reason to. We should be able to question everything that's out there without harming somebody, literally. And if you don't like what somebody says on their Facebook or anywhere else, then you block, delete, and you unfollow. I only block and delete people that just say stuff that is just like so like stupid and catty and would definitely be talking to me, and I haven't had an interaction with them really. They're just stalking my shit and then responding on their page how, you know, this kind of person is this way, and I fit that description. And so I'm just like, you know, I don't really need them on my page. I have no interaction with them. I have no really loyalty to them, so I have no problem releasing them. But some people I have interacted with, I do respect a lot, but I also question so many different things out there, and they happen to get caught up in that and or reflect what I'm talking about, and they'll have their own responses. And then I'll respond back, but I will unfollow so I don't keep that war going. But I will address what I feel in my gut. Because anytime I feel something in my gut, first, you know, I just be like, okay, I need to unfollow. This really struck me some way. I didn't have the words for it, but eventually I will have the words for what is striking me funny in my gut. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm the most right. It's not that. It's just that you all, you know, when something strikes you in your gut, you will say what you have to say to be at peace with who you are at the time. Okay? And so that's why then if you are getting triggered by somebody, you don't follow them. Because when you're constantly reacting to what they're saying in an indirect way, then you are asking for the conflict because you're still working your shit out. And I get that. When I finally worked my shit out and I don't need to keep responding subconsciously or indirectly to someone, then I just unfollow them and let it be, because obviously you're not trying to convert anyone. I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm just trying to understand my own behaviors and understand why certain people and why people strike me in different ways. I find out and I figure it out, so it doesn't become a thing, a colony that metastasizes into cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Okay? And so that's why I do what I do. And so let me just look here. So I said at some point, the holistic system will be used as a tool, not to be an alternative, but as a tool of getting people back into the Rockefeller medicine. Too much deregulation in the holistic industry. And so just watch for that. And then I said, some people's retribution against their parents are their children they have weaponized against the world. Okay? And so then I was thinking, I was reacting to somebody because, yeah, I am challenging the shelter world. I'm challenging saving people. I'm trying to figure out why we have a death culture and how the suffering and the validation and the savior and Satan and the politics, religion, and science all fit into that, the death culture. Then I realized that suffering is intentional. Suffering is intentional and it's commodified. And then we pay saviors and we pay people to save things as they're developing suffering over here, like commodifying, like breeding animals over here, and then paying someone to go save animals over here. And then people go and buy these animals, or they pay a rehoming fee, and then they also get them fixed. And so the veterinary industry gets a piece of all that action, and then the animal suffers. And then you have people validated, like, oh, I just saved this animal. I have 50 dogs and they're all fixed and they're all getting their medications and surgeries. And so the commodification of suffering and developing validation and saviors is built into this death culture, which is why I'm like, holy shit, these shelters are a trap for people who must feel like they have to be a savior, who are in the politics, religion, and science world, easily manipulated, highly emotional, been traumatized, and this is their outlet, their absolution, and then they get validated for the suffering and their savior and Satanship, which is part of the religious world. I'm not saying satanic, but that's how politics, religion, and science have been used to make people feel like they're a good person. If you can say that's satanic and that you're a savior and that person is Satan, and then you get validation from everyone, and now you want to, then you're killing people with kindness because you're trying to have developed the optics of being such a good person. Even though that person is not a good person, you'll still be a good person to them. So, right. So then I said, what if humans could be good people without another human telling them they're a good person? That's what I'm getting at. What if you didn't need validation? Wow, that would mean we wouldn't have so much dying and reproducing. And we would not need law enforcement. But the death culture needs law enforcement. Okay? We entertain suffering so we can feel good about ourselves, trying to end somebody's suffering. When you end someone's suffering at 100%, that's called death. Okay? Or they want somebody to validate and save them, right? So then you suffer and you don't do anything different. So you have everyone around you trying to save you and pick you up and do all this other shit. From self-inflicted suffering. Built-in validation and suffering. And so this is why people want to suffer. They want to save people or end somebody else's suffering. And that is the death culture. And so then the reason why I said that was I'm responding in my way of this. If you don't agree with my information on Facebook, please don't kill me with kindness. Or tell people you're killing me with kindness without telling them it's me. Just block and delete me or unfollow me. But please do not follow me if I make you feel like you really have to be a good person to make up for me. That you think I'm telling people that you're not a good person, right? So I will unfollow you so I'm not reacting to you. People are like, oh, you unfollow me. Oh, ooh, you're so scary. Okay. I'm not trying to be scary. I'm just trying to save my own self, but still keep you around because I don't hate you or think you're, I have some investment in you, but I don't really need to see your bullshit right now. So I will unfollow you so I'm not reacting to you, but you will definitely follow me and react to me. And I noticed that in certain people. And so you only need validation to be reassured you matter to others, not to yourself. I don't need your validation so you can be reassured that you are a good person. If you need validation others, if you need to validate others to reassure you're a good person, then you're not doing it for them as far as validating them and supporting them. You're doing it for yourself, for other people. It's about optics. And then to say that you validated somebody else, like giving money to the poor and taking pictures and posting it on Facebook. That's why I see right through so many things. That's why I'm able to speak plainly without worrying about what others think. I don't need people's validation. I could give a shit. I already figured out how to save myself. I have techniques, I have ways, I understand how all this shit works. And so if you don't, that's fine. You'll develop your own outcome. Okay? So I don't need your validation. Please don't validate other people for yourself, just so you can tell people you validate people even when you don't agree with them. If you don't agree with me, don't follow me. Okay? It's disingenuous and it's fake. People don't need other people's pity or charity. We don't need you to save them either. Everybody's doing great, right? Everybody's doing great. Unless they're not, then they will deal with it. And so you don't need people telling you you're doing great. You tell yourself you're doing great. I don't need to go out there and just basically kiss everyone's ass on Facebook. What's the point? I mean, if I like something that looks cool, okay. But I don't need to go and reassure people, oh, you're doing fucking amazing on their Facebook. If they're telling me stuff on my Facebook and then they're doing some stuff that's really, that I can understand, I'll say, hey, that's great. But do I go on people's Facebook like, oh, hey, you're doing awesome. Oh, hey, you're so beautiful. Oh, hey, I don't lay it on thick. I'm not trying to flatter people so I can come off as a good person. You guys will figure out your own shit. And we will find ways to connect, but not because I'm kissing your ass. Not because I'm trying to validate you to lift you up because you need me to lift you up. That's like imposing your saviorship on other people. When you purposely kill them with kindness. That's the fakey shit that I see in our society, and that's a lot in the politics, religion, and science world, and a lot with those who are saviors, who have been brought up to save people, work from their sexuality, major empathics. And that's what obviously annoyed me for many years, are those types of people, because it is disingenuous and you feel it in your gut. And they will lay the fucking love on you like all hell. And when you say stuff that you're finding out by yourself, they will pity you. They will say, oh, I want to put my arms around you and hug you, and I want to love you and all this. And you're like, that's not what I need. But then if you question that and you're like, is this really appropriate? They'll be like, well, I'm just trying to support you. What's wrong with you? See, that's the thing about the love, savior mentality, the needing for validation, the wanting to be a good person. That's their control mechanism. That's how they control their audience, that's how they control their people, their kids. That's how they're able to survive in this world, is to use that as a weapon. And when you recognize that's how they operate, you'll call it out and you'll see it and you'll feel yucky. And the more you call it out, the more they lay it on. And then you really have to fucking just then go right for the jugular, because they're not going to stop. That's how they fucking operate. It's all over. And so everybody's doing great. You don't need people telling you you're doing great. You tell yourself you're doing great. Fuck everybody else. If people are not doing great, they will deal with it. They will find a way or they won't. There is no one way. Okay? There is your way. And so that was like, that was pretty eye-opening, because the thing with the validation is the built-in suffering, and that's the death culture of wanting to save people. That's that is the whole system right now, as far as the death culture, the built-in suffering, the validation, and being the savior, and saving animals and children and other people and everything else, and then taking them to go to the doctors or to the veterinarian and get trauma that to them, and then the animal suffers later on. Then you got to go save it by then ending its suffering. That's the thing with our society, is that we've become so used to and addicted to ending people's suffering, to the point where it ends up in death. And then you have the sirens, the beautiful people, who will sell you their personality, their lifestyle, their children, sell you even all of their herbs and extracts to end your suffering. That is the allegory of succubus and incubus. That's who you need to watch out for, are those that want to end your suffering and lay the love on so fucking thick that you feel yucky and you feel slimed. But then you have to call it out, because you know that's what they're doing purposely. And when you react to it in a way that's like raising an eyebrow because that's so accepted, then people don't want to do that, because then they see people reacting, thinking like, oh, she's something wrong with her if she can't accept someone's laying on thick love flattery. But that has been built into the Rosicrucian, into Catholicism, mysticism, Jewish mysticism, Hermetics, okay, Christian Gnostics, Jewish mystic, what else? Hermetics, the Egyptian and Greek system. That was built in. That's why everyone out there is, not everyone, but a lot of people are very beautiful, like extremely beautiful and sexual, and selling you everything under the sun, and then they're being leveraged as well. And then selling you a popular way to be, and then you get your validation from your friends and family, so you then get pigeonholed and you get sucked in, and you're getting paid for it. And then when the system changes and you're already just invested so heavily and you can't afford to not change, then you're forced to play that role until you pass away, because you can't afford not to play that role, because the system trapped you into that mentality of validation, suffering, ending people's suffering, and then obviously ending up dying sooner than later in this environment. So I knew, my gut knew about the empathics even a few years ago, about that way of being. And then it just took me a few years to figure out that when I bought into getting animals, saving animals from the vet store, saving animals from the shelters, and then you have some dude down the street breeding them right under someone trying to save them, it's a no-win situation. You're being set up to fail. And then you're forced to feel like, you're forced to then play a role when your hormones are constantly being pumped full of oxytocin, because you're looking at these animals who are bringing up all those different hormones. And you feel their suffering. Well, at some point, someone's got to stop playing the fucking game. I can't tell people not to play that game. That's their game to play. Go play it. But I'm not part of it, and don't lay your bullshit onto me. But I had to really study that. I had to really study my own reactions and why I feel certain ways, and learn how to articulate it and bring it into the bigger picture of the J world and the whole death culture. So at some point, yeah, the system is changing. We're not going to end that whole shelter system and breeding so much life to cause the suffering to then warrant that like 100%. It's going to be a transition. And so when people are like, yeah, 1984 surveillance society, and they're going to be doing this, this, and this. Oh yeah, absolutely. At some point, they're going to see what is wrong with our old lifestyle in a higher accelerated environment. And they're going to see how correlation equals causation without all the distraction in between. And so the system will then figure out, they will see the answers to their questions and problems get resolved faster in a highly accelerated environment. They will see what correlation equals causation. Then they will change. And so then they'll slow down the environment, realize what happened in a faster environment, and then promote new legislation because of new scientific findings, redirecting or reconfiguring the intentions. Because remember, there's a billion arguments out there. And just because your argument today is popular does not mean that your argument today that's popular is going to be popular in the next 5 years, 10 years, because it will change. Because we're seeing now correlation equals causation. I'm noticing it. I've been making connections so quickly the last 3 years, ever since I released the demons, and the energy in the environment is so fast and aggressive that when I'm talking and I'm bringing all the 5 senses and I'm releasing demons and I'm seeing correlation equals causation, then the connections come faster and faster and faster. And then you don't have patience for bullshit. And you'll call shit out for what it is. And you won't care what people say or think or do. Because it's not about money. It's not about validation. It's not about, looking good for people and selling bullshit. People will figure it out or they won't. You can't force that shit down people's throats. And either you validate yourself or you're looking for people to validate you and then make you feel better about yourself because you don't feel good about yourself. You need people to tell you that you're a good person. You need to give up your body, mind, and spirit to other people so you feel that you're worth it. And that's most of our society. They cannot validate themselves and be on their own and not live on everyone telling them they're beautiful, they're good, and they're a savior. They need that. That's the downfall of our society, but that was built in, and you can't change people, so you just watch the whole situation happen, but you don't have to be part of it once you see it, okay? And I've been around a lot of different people, a lot, that I see it, and I've seen the patterns, and I've seen how I reacted, I've seen what I've done to walk away from that situation, and I will express it and articulate the best way I know how. But first, it's that feeling that you get. When you have that feeling, don't ignore it. Learn how to articulate it. Because when you cover it up with drugs, alcohol, sex, and distractions, then that feeling will metastasize into cancer, disease, chronic illness, and autoimmune disorders. And or death. And so that's when you have to learn how to release the demons and articulate the things that bug you about the world that you live in. And then what will you do to change? And so yesterday, oh boy, this afternoon, you're in a marathon running like you're sprinting. I was posting so many reels yesterday. In the Diet Suddenly groups, people are recommending people get on keto diet so they don't feel the high blood pressure. I eat the gluten. They were recommending, gluten-free or keto diets, or recommending stopping certain food intakes so you don't feel the high blood pressure stuff. So in the Diet Suddenly groups, okay, so I eat the gluten and the bread and everything else. I fucking feed it with everything. I don't starve myself. In this highly accelerated environment, when you feel stuff, you can't afford to starve yourself and withhold food. But that's what people are doing with themselves. When the kid's like, oh, mommy's feeling like a high blood pressure, then they withhold food from themselves so they don't feel it either. See, the kids will copy the parents. That's what's crazy. It's not really. And so in this highly accelerated environment, when you feel stuff, you can't afford to starve yourself. And you have to hawk out loogies and poop to do it. And so you need the food and the substance to give you the body the ammunition to release the demons. That's why the high blood pressure, the body's trying to push shit out, and they are starving, and people are starving their bodies. See, I don't take anything to release the demons except for food like milk and gluten and meat and some fruits. And then I use my methodologies that's in my book, because the body is releasing from all the orifices right now. It wasn't like I was shitting in my pants. And I didn't have that much poop yesterday when you think about it. And so, but you know that all the different orifices are releasing stuff. And you can smell the release because it's going through a chemical process. But you have to be okay with it. See, when we were doing all those waterfalls way back then, people were seeing different colors. They were smelling stuff. Yeah, your body produces so much different acids and chemistry. And it's all housed in different places. And sometimes the chemistry, the acids and different things eat up and cause other issues in the body. So you have to release. That was back then. Now, in this highly anionic environment, when you are making sure that you're fed with all the diverse foods and you're not withholding necessary foods like meat, milk, cheese, and eggs and all that, and gluten, then the body, when it goes through an energy conversion in a highly accelerated environment, it has the armpits, the orifices to release, whether it's through your dick or through your vag or through your ass or through your nose and your eyes and your ears and even, when my head itches, everything is releasing. Sometimes you have to take a couple showers a day because you are releasing it and it's smelly, and then you take another shower, change your underwear, and put on something fresh. And that's kind of our environment. But what people are doing is they don't want to smell all the stuff that's releasing, so they use different topicals and or do other things to cover up the smells. But I'll tell you, in this environment, you can't afford to stop the body from releasing. You literally have to let the body release, because if you don't, you'll metastasize. It'll metastasize into something that's diagnosable and something that you will not be able to get away from. It'll run away from you that quickly in this environment. And so I said yesterday, I'm not pooping a lot except for this morning, but the body is definitely finding a way to release anything that it does not need. Okay. And so that way I keep continuing to keep the balance even in a highly ionic environment. And as my body's releasing, I'm listening to high energy music to help the cells released. And it was fucking insane. So yeah, when we went to that restaurant, I ate so much. Okay. And so, oh yeah, I read that already. Sometimes anyway, so, and so Bob Dylan said that the winners will be losers and losers will be winners, and the script can always change when science has infinite arguments, truths, and mark my words. Because again, the system does not want people destroying they don't want to destroy everyone. They don't want to destroy everybody. Obviously, if they wanted to destroy humanity, they would have all these different crazy bombs, or say, oh, we're under attack by all these aliens, and every major city will have some Independence Day, and who's to say it's not going to happen? But I can't assume it's not going to, it's going to happen. And so humanity is going to live on, but it's just certain humans that are going to have an issue with surviving. Okay, so that was yesterday, and now I understand the death culture. It's again about intentional suffering and validation and saving, and people wanting to feel good about themselves. And ending people's suffering. That's what people are addicted to, is ending everybody's suffering. That is our world right now, is the addiction to ending people's suffering, which ends up in rest and peace. And so when somebody is trying to end your suffering with love and remedies and surgeries and flattering you if they think you're suffering, or recommending you, any kind of whatever, watch out for them. They were weaponized against you. Take care.